What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. It is officially March, and we got an updated bracketology for you guys. Only a couple of weeks away from Selection Sunday. And before we get into it, I just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. We got a ton of college basketball, March Madness content coming your way. You don't want to miss it, so hit that subscribe button. And yeah, guys, let's get right into this bracketology. So you know I love to fill out the experts bracketologies here early, as I do every week. We will have another one of those coming out here in just a couple of days. But every once in a while, I like to create my own bracketologies based on what I think the field would look like today. And given it is only the second day of March, I feel like it was the perfect time to come up with an updated bracketology. So I did make this after all the games finished, at least all of the, Power 5 games, after the Memphis game ended and the Michigan versus Illinois game ended here on Sunday, March 2nd, I decided to create this. We do have the SoCon tournament starting not the SoCon, the ASUN tournament starting tonight, and I will be watching that after we finish this bracketology here, so that's going to be very fun tonight. But let's get right into it. We have our first two regions up on the screen for you guys. If you guys are looking for the other two regions, just skim over it. Skip to a little past halfway, and you'll see the other two regions. We'll be breaking those down after these two. But we got our South region and our East region. First off, our South region, which of course is headlined by our top overall seed, once again, the Auburn Tigers. It's going to be very hard for Auburn not to get the top overall seed, in my opinion. They're definitely going to be a 1 seed, no doubt about it. Another really good road win on the road at Kentucky this past Saturday, just looking very, very dominant. Not really going to go over a lot of like the 16, 15, 14 seeds. What you see on the screen is just either my favorite team out of their leagues or the team that I think is going to win those leagues. And SEMO, Southern, pretty solid mid-majors, but they get in there as some of the worser mid-majors there as at the 16 seed play-in game there in the field of 68. So 8 seed, 9 seed matchup, New Mexico versus UConn. Very interesting. UConn's kind of fell off a little bit, throughout the season, but yeah, they're down to a 9 seed for me. I kind of dropped a lot of teams that have been very iffy lately, including Kansas. Kansas was a big dropper for me, which we will get to them in the next couple of regions. But New Mexico, I feel like there is potential for them to possibly get a 7 seed. If they can run the table the rest of the way, I know they did lose to Boise State on the road not too long ago, but that was on the road. Boise's a pretty good team, and I actually do have them in the field. We'll talk about them here in just a second. But New Mexico, if they can run the rest of the table, including winning the Mountain West tournament, I feel like New Mexico can definitely get up to a 7 seed at least, maybe even a 6, but that's going to be pretty tough, but definitely a 7. I feel like 8 is perfect for them, but that would be huge if they could play a 2 seed in the second round rather than a 1 seed. Anything helps, so that would be good there for New Mexico. And then we got Maryland here as a 5 seed. I kind of want to talk about Maryland and Clemson. They kind of go hand in hand for me because I feel like they've been very underseeded in a lot of bracketologies, especially Clemson. I've seen them around a 6 or 7 most of the season. Earlier on in the season, it was 8, 9, but they've been slowly climbing up. I feel like they deserve at minimal a 5 seed, and right now I got them as a 4 seed. They got another good win, looked really good in the second half of that Virginia game on the road. Virginia was fighting really hard with Clemson, but Clemson was found a way to really pull away in that second half. Looked really good. I feel like they deserve a 4 seed. They just keep on winning, and Maryland's doing a really good job of really being the most underrated team there in the Big Ten Conference. I feel like they deserve a 5 seed at this point, and yeah, I got them here at a 5 seed. They feel like the perfect 5 seed, honestly. 12 seed, interesting because we do have 2 of the mid-majors jumping up to an 11 seed, getting, technically at-large bids, saying if they didn't win their conference, they would have still gotten into the tournament. One of those teams is Drake, as you'll see in the South region. The other team is UC San Diego, which we will talk about in the other 2 regions. The last 4 in games have been moved to the 12 seed line instead of the 11 seed line. So for our 12 seed line, we do have our 2 of our last 4 teams in, which is Georgia and Boise State. Georgia got a huge win against Florida not too long ago at home. Florida almost came back on them, but that was a huge win. That, as long as they can have another good week this week and go like 1-1 even, they're going to be probably in the field, so that is going to be a huge win there for Georgia that they can look back on if they make the tournament and say we would not have made it without that big win. Boise State, kind of a similar thing with them, beating New Mexico. That was a huge win for them. They got to keep it up. They also beat Utah State recently as well, so playing very well. They're here as an at-large, sneaking in as a 12 seed in the last four in. And then Mississippi State, High Point, I will mention real quick, High Point, one of my favorite mid-majors this year. They've been really taking over their league this year, and they are one of the best offenses in the mid-majors. Look out for the High Point Panthers. Mississippi State has the 6th line, though. They play a very tough schedule there, the best conference in college basketball there in the SEC. But Mississippi State definitely deserves a 6 seed. I could see them maybe as a 7, 6, 7. Very, very close. Drake as our 11th seed. As I mentioned earlier, we have two teams that are in a one-bid league saying if they wouldn't have won their tournament, they would have still gotten into the tournament. So they are sitting here as an 11th seed. Very, very good seeding here for Drake. That has happened because the bubble is somewhat weak. I mean, you look at our first 4 teams out, it's Arkansas, North Carolina, Wake Forest, Xavier. That's a pretty weak bubble, to be honest. Like, I'm not going to lie. It's a really weak bubble. And, yeah, Drake definitely deserves a spot over all of those teams, in my opinion. And then we have Texas Tech as our 3 seed. Texas Tech, I feel like, is the perfect 3 seed. I feel like I wouldn't move them up to a 2 line at this point, and I don't feel comfortable moving them any further down than a 3 seed. I wouldn't move them down to a 4. So I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with them at a 3 right now. They're, like I said, right there at the 3 playing Chattanooga in the first round. Then UCLA as our 7th seed. UCLA has been a very up and down team in the Big Ten this year, but they have a pretty good defense and they rebound the ball really well as well. So UCLA is an interesting team, and that will be a very defensive 7-10 matchup versus West Virginia. West Virginia and UCLA are both very defensive. That will be a very close game. Awesome 7-10 matchup there. West Virginia did lose again on the road at BYU, but they are kind of getting saved right now because, like I mentioned earlier, the bubble is so weak that no team is really overtaking West Virginia at this point. So as long as they can, win another game, definitely if they win 2 more games before the Big 12 tournament, they'll almost lock in their spot. St. John's here as a 2 seed. That is right. I got the Johnnies up to a 2 seed at this point. I was really debating having either St. John's or Wisconsin as my last 2 seed because Wisconsin did lose to Michigan State today. And I know that Michigan State is a really good team. They're also a 2 seed for me, as you can see over in the East region. But it was on the road, but Wisconsin, I feel like St. John's deserves a 2 seed at this point. So I do have the Big East regular season champions already crowned here as a 2 seed, and they'll be going up against North Alabama in the first round. That would be St. John's, just one of the best defenses in the country. They will be a very scary team in the tournament. They deserve a 2 seed. East region, we got Duke as our 1 seed. No surprise there. Just been dominating there in the ACC and just, killing it, man. 16 seed that we're going up against either American or Norfolk State. Norfolk State, I think, is a pretty, decently good 16 seed. Will they have a chance against Duke? Probably not. Creighton here as our 8 seed. Creighton is a really good 8. Definitely a team that could move up to a 7. 9 seed Illinois. I wanted to move Illinois up after beating Michigan today, at least to an 8. I couldn't find the spot for them because I would have to move somebody like New Mexico down, which I really didn't want to do. So I feel like Illinois holding strong as a 9 seed, but I will say with them beating Michigan, they almost solidified themselves to for sure be in the tournament because that was on the road at Michigan, who is a really good team. Easily a quad 1 win, right? So that win's going to hold a lot of weight. Illinois, for me, has locked in their spot to the field, even though I couldn't move them up past a 9 seed. Arizona as our 5 seed. I could see Arizona being a 4 seed. I've seen some people having Arizona as a 4 seed over a team like Clemson. I think Clemson deserves a 4 seed over Arizona. Let me know what you guys think, but that's probably the debate that would be had for Arizona to be a 4 seed is you'd have to put them over a team like Clemson. I think Clemson deserves it more at this point, but Arizona could definitely get to a 4 by the end of the season for sure. Yale is our 12 seed there, definitely a 12 seed. If they can continue to, run the Ivy League and win the Ivy League tournament, I feel like they are an easy 12 seed. 4 seed, we do have Texas A&M. Texas A&M has been losing a little bit lately. Not too long ago, they were a 2 seed. I'm pretty sure in my last Bracketology a few weeks ago, they were a 2 seed, now down to a 4 seed. This is kind of a perfect spot for them right now, in my opinion. They have to, bounce back and win. They can get up to a 3, but they could also drop down to a 5 if they're not careful. So I feel like 3 to 5 is the range for Texas A&M from now to the end of the season. They'll be going up against Akron out of the MAC conference. Louisville as the 6th seed. Louisville, I feel like, is the perfect 6. I see them as either a 6 or a 7 in most bracketologies. I feel like they definitely deserve a 6, though. I feel like the ACC has definitely been underrated, and I understand because the lower half of the ACC is really weak, but really the top 3 teams in the ACC are very strong, and that is Duke, Clemson, and Louisville. Nebraska as an 11 seed. You guys know I like some Nebraska ball. I got them in the field as actually a team not playing in the first 4 games and the last 4 in teams. They are the last 4 buys. As they say. So Nebraska is one of my last 4 teams to get a bye. Definitely have some work to do to solidify themselves in the tournament. They can't go and have an 0-2 week, but for now, they are an 11 for me. 3 seed, we do have Iowa State. Iowa State is definitely a team that could jump up to a 2 seed. Right now, I definitely feel like St. John's deserves it more. Michigan State definitely deserves it more. And my other 2 seeds are Alabama and Florida, which we'll get there here in just a minute. But yeah, we're not going to put Iowa State over Alabama or Florida at this point. But they could definitely get there. But if St. John's and Michigan State both somehow run the table, it's going to be difficult, especially for Michigan State. Big Ten's pretty strong. But if they do, Iowa State's probably going to be sitting at a 3, unless they can somehow run the table themselves and win the Big 12 championship. They might have an argument to get a 2 seed, but right now they're sitting here as a 3 seed. They'll be playing Central Connecticut. Pretty strong 14 seed, to be honest. 7 seed, we do have Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I feel like a good 7 seed at this point. SEC has been very strong. They've been competing in that league. They have good wins like over Alabama on the road. Ole Miss 7 seed for sure. VCU as a 10 seed. That's right. I also have out of the A10 getting an at-large bid. VCU. I'm very high on them. They're sitting here as a 10 seed, and then Michigan State as our 2 seed. Another big win against Wisconsin here today, and they're holding strong to that 2 seed here, and they will play Robert Morris in the first round as our 15. Now let's move on to our other 2 regions. Okay, next 2 regions, we got our Midwest and our West region. Starting with our Midwest, we have Houston getting a 1 seed. Houston as our 1 seed in the other region. In the West region, we have Tennessee as our other 1 seed. Florida, they lost to Georgia, and that kind of made them fall to a 2 seed. And a lot of it has to do with just their quad 1 record. Tennessee has the better quad 1 record, even though they have the same record overall. Tennessee's just played in more quad 1 games, and the committee is really going to value that. And I believe, even though I think Florida, in my personal opinion, is the better team over Tennessee, they're both really good teams, and Tennessee has the better, net rankings, resume, if you want to say that. So Tennessee, at this point, I believe would get the 1 seed over Florida, but Florida would 100% be my top 2 seed. But Houston, 1 seed here in the Midwest. They've been running the Big 12 conference. They, at this point, are definitely going to get a 1 seed, and they'll be going up against the Vermont Catamounts in the first round as a 16 seed. And then we got Gonzaga as a 8 seed. Gonzaga, I think, is starting to get closer and closer to a 7 seed, which is really going to help Gonzaga. For sure. So if they can get some people to lose, and they can maybe even if they can especially end up beating St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference Championship, I think they could definitely get up to a 7 seed 100%. And then we got 9 seeded Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's been very good as of late. They're another team, in my opinion, similar to another 9 seed in Illinois. They've locked in their spot to the NCAA tournament. So very good there by Vanderbilt, playing in that tough SEC. Also in the SEC, our 5 seed is Kentucky, and Kentucky dropped down to a 5 seed for me. I feel like that they are a 5 seed. I could see them as a 4 or a 5. I can't really see them as a 6 or a 3. I think they're a 4 or a 5, and right now they're a 5 in my opinion. They'll be going up against McNeese State in the first round. Then we got Michigan as our 4 seed. I had them as a 3 until they just lost at home to Illinois. That dropped them down to a 4 seed, and really I replaced them with Missouri, who's in the same region. They're in the Midwest. Missouri jumped up to a 3 seed for me in place of Michigan. I feel like eye test wise, Missouri is the better team than Michigan. That is just my opinion, just watching the games. But because, like I said, Michigan lost to Illinois at home, Missouri has held down home court fantastically. And Michigan had another close call recently against Rutgers at home. I think Missouri deserves the 3 over Michigan at this point. They're in the same region. I jumped Missouri to the 3 line. But Michigan here at the 4 line, they'll be going up against out of the Sun Belt, Jacksonville State. Or not out of the Sun Belt, out of the Conference USA, my bad. Out of the Conference USA, Jacksonville State, and then Oregon as a 6 seed. That 6-11 seed there, matchup between Oregon and Baylor would be a really good one. That's kind of like a 6-11 seed that's more 50-50, so very interesting there. But Baylor definitely has some work to do in order to lock themselves into the tournament. In my opinion, they are very similar to West Virginia. West Virginia and Baylor are the 2 teams out of the Big 12 that if they can just win 1 or 2 more games, they will definitely lock in their spot. But because the bubble is so weak, they have been getting chance after chance to do that. So hopefully for their cases, they will be able to. As I mentioned earlier, Missouri jumped up to a 3 line for me. I'm actually pretty high on Missouri. They have one of the best offenses in college basketball. They've been killing it. I think they deserve a 3 right now. I think that they are going to get anywhere from a 3 to a 5 by the time Selection Sunday comes around, depending on how they finish the season. But I can't see them getting worse than a 5 at this point. Towson is who they will be playing. They're in the first round as a 14 seed. 7 seed is Memphis. Got another victory here today against UAB on the road. A lot of people will look at that and be like, oh, it was close throughout the game, and then Memphis was able to pull away at the end. That's what they've been doing, but UAB is actually not that bad of a team, and it was on the road. Memphis holding strong as a 7 seed for me. They'll be going up against 10-seeded Ohio State. Ohio State, a lot of my 10, 11 seeds are all teams that I feel like have some work to do, but they are in at this point as long as they can, just get another win or 2. And Ohio State definitely fits that mold for me as well. They might have a little bit more work to do than some other teams because their record isn't that great, but they have some big wins. So Ohio State, 10 seed, they need to finish the season strong. And then 2 seed Florida, as I mentioned earlier, they are my top 2 seed. They'll be going up against Omaha here in the first round. And then our last region, we do have the West region, headlined by top seed Tennessee. And Tennessee, they hit a buzzer beater for the win to beat Alabama this week. That really put them over Florida, as Florida did lose recently. Puts Tennessee there as the 1 seed, even though, like I mentioned, I think Florida is the better team than Tennessee, even though it is kind of close, but Tennessee has the better quad 1 record. They have the same record. They play in the same conference. I feel like Tennessee is going to get the 1 seed over Florida, and they'll be going up against Marist there in the first round as a 16 seed, and then 8 seed Kansas. I mentioned earlier on in this video that Kansas was one of the teams that did drop pretty big for me. They're all the way down to an 8 seed. I feel like you could argue a 7 for them, but I think they're anywhere from a 7 to 9 at this point. If they got a 6, I feel like that would be very generous. I think they're anywhere from a 7 to a 9. I got them as an 8. They'll be going up against Utah State as our 9 seed in the first round. 5 seed, St. Mary's. St. Mary's is another team that I feel like has been very, very undervalued in a lot of bracketologies this year. I got them as a 5 seed. I've seen them as a 6 or a 7 most of the time. If Gonzaga was doing what St. Mary's is doing right now, Gonzaga would probably be a 3 seed, to be honest. So St. Mary's gets the 5 seed. I feel like it's well-deserved. They've been playing very, very well. And they'll be going up against two of my last teams in, which are Oklahoma and Indiana. That would be a really good game between Oklahoma and Indiana. Both those teams have not really been that great this year, which just goes to show you what the bubble is looking like this year. Oklahoma and Indiana at this point, in my opinion, are in as like the last 2 teams in. So they're here at the 12 lines. And then Purdue, 4 seed. Purdue haven't been playing that great lately. They lost to Indiana not too long ago, so that is a big reason why Indiana's getting in. Purdue's down to a 4 seed at one point. I think maybe even in my last bracketology, like 3 weeks ago or so, Purdue was a 2 seed, so they're down to a 4 right now, and they'll go up against Utah Valley in the first round. And then we got Marquette as a 6 seed here. Marquette is another team that dropped a little bit for me, and yeah, down to a 6 seed. I could see them as a 5, but honestly, out of the 5 seeds that I have right now, I would not put Marquette over any of them, so I had to drop them down to a 6 seed at this point. Could they get a 5? 100%. I think they are anywhere from, I think they're a 5 or a 6 seed. I don't really see them as a 7 unless they really have a bad end to the season, and if they run the table and win the Big East Conference tournament, I could see them potentially getting a 4. So I would say they're going to be anywhere from a 4 to a 7, but right now I feel like 5 or 6 is perfect for Marquette. And they'll be going up against UC San Diego, who, as I mentioned earlier, one of the teams that did get an at-large as a mid-major. They're out of the Big West Conference. 3 seed Wisconsin, as I mentioned earlier, I did debate, putting them at a 2 seed over St. John's. If they would have beat Michigan State, I would have pulled the trigger on that. But I feel like a 3 seed is what they are right now. Are they my top 3 seed? I think so. I think Wisconsin, even after losing on the road to Michigan State, that's not a bad loss. I think they're still my top 3 seed at this point. And they'll be going up against, out of the Sun Belt Conference, Arkansas State in the first round. There was a 14 seed, and then 7 seed, we got BYU. BYU's been on a tear lately. I could even see them, as hot as they've been. I could see them maybe even jumping up to a 5 seed, more realistically a 6. I think they're going to be anywhere from a 6 to an 8. Right now I got them as a 7 seed, and they'll be going up against San Diego State, the 10 seed, very defensive team. Offense on BYU, defense San Diego State would be a very interesting 7-10 matchup to see how that would go. And then our 2 seed in this region is the Alabama Crimson Tide, the team that did just lose to a buzzer beater to the 1 seed in their region, Tennessee. So if the 1 and 2 come out to the Elite 8 in this region, we would get to see that rematch. And I would say it would be just as entertaining. And they would be going up against Montana there in that first round. So that is it for the 4 regions of our bracketology, guys. As I mentioned earlier, my first 4 teams out are Arkansas, who they would have been in, but they not only lost to South Carolina, they got blown out by South Carolina. That pushed them out for me. I got Oklahoma in over them, and Indiana, who just beat Purdue not too long ago. So Arkansas, it seemed like they were going to get in, but then they really blew it. We'll see how they finish the season, though. North Carolina has been playing better recently, but they have a horrible quad 1 record. I'm still keeping them out. Wake Forest was looking like they were going to get in as the 4th ACC team to get a bid, but I'm not so sure now. They do have potential. All these teams still have potential to get in, and then Xavier out of the Big East, who somehow is still hanging on around the bubble as a potential team to get in. So let me know what you guys think, guys. Let me know, is there anyone else around the bubble that I'm missing that you guys think deserves a mention or still has a chance to get in? Let me know down below in the comment section. Let me know what you guys would change about this bracketology. Who would you guys have as a higher seed? Who would you guys have as a lower seed? And yeah, guys, make sure you guys subscribe for more college basketball content. March Madness is almost here. We are finally in March, so hit that subscribe button. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.